Hi there, Soph from Inkling, and in this super short episode of Inkling TV, I'm going to teach you a really powerful tool to create psychological safety that you can use in work, but actually you can use it in any area of your life. I'm going to teach you the exercise. I'm going to talk about why it's so important as I explain the exercise. So the exercise is called vulnerability tennis. So I can imagine you're already starting to go, doesn't sound that appealing. The aim of this exercise is actually to share your whole self with another person or with a group of people. So how do you do this? What you need to do is you need to ask the group that you're working with or the other individual that you're working with to think of 3 imperfect things about themselves and about yourself that makes you feel or makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable and that you don't often share with others. Why would we do this? Why would we share imperfect truths about ourselves with others? Because actually what we know is that true psychological safety and belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Now, vulnerability is something that many of us might have heard through Brené Brown, who's built her whole career around talking about this. At Inkling, we say that vulnerability sounds like truth and it feels like courage. Truth and courage are definitely not always comfortable, but they're never weaknesses. Only when you are truly vulnerable do you give permission for others to do the same. To help you see how this works, I'm going to share with you 3 vulnerable things or 3 imperfect truths about myself. Now, I just want to say I'm not demonstrating baby steps in vulnerability because I'd say I'm easing on my black belt in vulnerability after really leaning into practicing sharing of imperfect things about myself through the work that we do at Inkling. But I want to say that doing this and sharing this doesn't cause me any emotional discomfort. So I have a really old and powerful story that I'm not enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not strong enough, not funny enough. Basically insert a whole lot of things in front of enough. And this means I have a tendency, or that I have to watch my tendency to give until I'm exhausted and empty, resentful, and I have nothing left to give. And this can also mean that I unconsciously model this type of behavior for my team. And I have watched examples of where they also give until they're exhausted. Another imperfect truth about myself is that I have had to battle the fear that I'm going to die old and alone with 5 cats. For some reason, this fear haunts me regularly. And I think I have to be conscious of how that plays out in my life. And then the other one is I often feel alone in my role as CEO and wonder whether I have reached my capability, if I have what it takes to support the business to move to the next level. Some other examples that I've heard through the work that I do is things like my daughter has learning difficulties and I'm exhausted, and then I feel guilty that I'm a terrible mother for not helping her more. Things like I really struggle with my partner's family. I just don't share the same values as them. So in terms of a process for how you would go about sharing this, and I want to give you the context of how it would work in a work situation, but just know that you can use it in other areas of your life. The way it would work is you sort of brief them how to come up with their imperfect truths, and then you get people standing up and standing opposite each other. So 2 people will share. And it's like a game of tennis. So the first person shares one of their 3 imperfect things, then the opposite person responds with their imperfect thing, and then in response, the first person shares another imperfect thing, and you go back and forth until each person has shared 3 imperfect things or facts about themselves. Now, you can just do one round where only you share with one person, or you can rotate so people actually have the opportunity to work with other people. Once everyone has shared, or once you have shared with that particular person, make sure that you thank that person genuinely for opening up and sharing. Now, there are a couple of guidelines we set for people around this exercise. So going beyond what you would normally do, but not so much that it's going to bubble over and cause you great emotional distress. In saying that, if you happen to experience emotion that comes up as a surprise through this exercise, just to know that it is completely okay. It's completely okay if that comes up for you, but also just to be okay with another person experiencing that it doesn't need to feel uncomfortable. It's completely part of the human experience to experience and feel emotions. One of the other guidelines we set is to be really present and empathetic in body language and eye contact when you do this. And we usually encourage setting a few clarity or guiding principles. So one is around what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So ensuring that people understand that whatever they're sharing with that person isn't going to get repeated outside of that conversation, unless that person chooses to share it themselves. And then the other one is to take off the armour. So we really encourage people to really lean into that vulnerability, and too often we put our armour on to protect ourselves, and this exercise is about taking that off, or taking off the masks. So what you want to do at the end of that exercise, if you're running it, is to ask everyone what their experience was like. What was it like to share? What was it like to be on the receiving end? To draw out the learnings and link back to the importance of connection and how it drives performance within your team. At Inkling, we are committed to building brave leaders and courageous cultures, and this exercise requires serious courage. So good luck and enjoy the connection and trust that it builds within your team.